Welcome back to another weekly episode of In the Relationship Arena, where I talk about all things relationship, sometimes with a fabulous guest, and sometimes I go solo and I talk about some things which come up on a regular basis for me in session with couples, families, individuals that I work with. But everything is about relationship, and it's about the conversations that we could have that could enhance it, the conversations we often don't have, and also why people come into that therapy space as well. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about one of the common aims that we're looking for when we're in that therapy space, which is to find common ground. So there are couples that come into the therapy space who are just looking to reconnect more. Perhaps they're working on their intimacy. Perhaps they are just knowing that communication's gone a little bit awry. But a lot of the time, we have couples come into the therapy space and there is a real disconnect. Something has happened and they are feeling aggrieved with each other, perhaps one party more than another. And you know that there is tension. Okay. And quite often and not, what happens is one of the partners wants to lean into the relationship and one of the partners wants to lean out of the relationship because something has caused them to feel that way. Anything from just not feeling heard to being taken for granted, complacency, infidelity, lack of trust. There's a whole host of things. And there's a lot you could talk about in that space. There's a lot of psych education, there's a lot of science, there's what's going on for each person. In my last video I talked about the fact that it's a couple session, but it's two individuals bringing all of their baggage into the session. So where do you start? Where do you start when communication is gone, when trust is potentially gone, when one person feels different to another, when there's hurt? And probably if they've tried to communicate, they've ended up like this. It stopped being communication and it started being conflict. One has gone on the defense because they feel they're being attacked. They're taking it personally. It, you know, this is navigation 101, right? We have to find a way to start that communication, and to do that we have to put all of those kind of thoughts of what what you feel, what you think would help. You need to put that all out of the window, and we're looking for a glimmer, a glimpse of common ground. And that common ground in those early days is often something which is, let's call it a negative. So maybe the only thing they agree on is they both feel hurt. Maybe the only thing that they agree on is they don't know the future of the relationship. But this is at least something. This is at least something that they agree on, because they probably think they agree on nothing. But you have found your chink, you have found your glimmer. And this is just where you need to put that hat on as a therapist and listen and guide, because all of the science and all of the posh words and big words and all of the psych education in the world is not going to help you if you cannot listen and guide and help facilitate and take that one glimmer that you've got and turn it into a shining light, turn it into something that's kickstarting a conversation. Conversation is key. You have to be able to get conversation going. You have to be able to get to a space where you feel able to share. And this is not about arguing. This is not about stepping into conflict. That sometimes happens. And I'm going to do a video on the whole kind of, do you let them argue? Do you not let them argue? It's a big thing. But you have to get couples to a space where they can start to have a conversation about what's going on for them, where they feel safe enough to share something without feeling that they're going to be attacked or shot down or dismissed by their partner, which maybe has happened when people are hurt. So this is very interesting. The other thing is maybe the leaning in and leaning out is your common ground. And you're thinking, well, how can that be? Because one is desperately leaning in and one is pulling away. And, you know, it can be as obvious as them saying it, it can be body language. You know, you see this, okay? But what if all of that is to do with fear of vulnerability? One is desperately trying to lean in and fix things, to put, you know, a plaster over things, to get the other person to see them and hear them, to feel like the relationship can be saved so that they feel secure again. They're not going to lose this, you know. So one is doing that. The other person is leaning out potentially because they feel vulnerable and they don't feel secure and they're worried about being hurt again and they're worried about what happens if I have a glimmer of hope and then this all blows up in my face again because I've already been hurt, so maybe I don't want to do that. So just because the behaviors that people are demonstrating in the couple space seem to be polar opposites, it doesn't mean they're not coming from a same need or want. So again, trying to dive in and really find out what's going on that's driving that behavior. Because if you realize that even though they're both behaving differently, it's coming from a similar place of fear, of vulnerability, of insecurity, you've got common ground. So the role of a therapist is very much navigation, guidance, mediation, listening. Lots and lots of listening. You're listening for all those little types of clues that come up that you just want to kind of grab hold of and put in your bag and just wait for the appropriate time to feed that into the conversation to help your clients to see things differently and help them open that communication. So that's kind of just wanted to give you that insight into one of the things that goes on in the therapy space. You know, as I say, people come into the space for many reasons, and but everything starts in the same way. You know, you get an inquiry, you meet with, you know, both of them, hopefully. You meet with them. Well, I choose to meet with them individually. You hear all about what's going on from their perspective, but you've got to get them together at some point in that first meeting. And that first meeting is often, you know, one where you would love to get loads of information, but you don't really know how that's going to go. You don't really know how much they're going to open up to each other. You don't know how much they're going to open up to you. You don't know whether they even want to be there, you know, because maybe one of them has persuaded the other one to come along and they feel like they need to do the right thing. But that doesn't mean they want to be in that space. So there is a lot going on before you can even step into, I guess, the therapy side of things and do any therapizing. You know, people call it therapizing, because actually your role initially takes on a whole different thing. I hope that's given you a little short insight. We've got some guests coming up. We've got some longer episodes coming up. I'm going to start talking about some more complex cases, some more complex topics. I'm going to be diving into the 4 aspects of a relationship, going to be looking at some of the challenges that relationships face that I work with. Some of those are around sort of lack of trust, they're around infidelity and affairs, they're around you know, what happens when the dreams you had as a couple don't work out, you know, when life transitions take a change, maybe there's loss, you know, parental bereavement. There's a whole host of things that come into the therapy space where people are looking for help and looking for support. So I'm going to be covering some of those topics as well in the coming weeks, as I say, as well as talking to some amazing guests here in the relationship arena. So if you want to, you know, enjoy these short sessions and hopefully the longer sessions that we're going to have coming up, then please do like and subscribe. If you have a question about relationships, feel free to email me. You can access me, you know, via my webpage, and the links are all below, or just drop a note in the comments, and I can get back to you. So I hope you've enjoyed another closer look into what goes on in the therapy space, and I'll see you soon back here in the relationship arena.